Did you know that we have monthly live mentorship meetings for our Behavior Pro members? We wanted to give you a sneak peek inside our mentorship programs, so we're answering some questions about being a BCBA in a school, as well as ABA assessments that you can use. Hi, I'm Shayna, and together with my partner Shira, we are How to ABA. We're behavior analysts that create weekly content about how to teach children with autism so that they make real progress. And we create shareable resources to make your job just a little easier. Today's topic is all about our mentorship programs. And if you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on new video releases.
Okay, so the way I approach education and BCBAs in schools is I love the marriage of the two, because I think that part of what our field needs to work against is this idea that like ABA happens somewhere like in a room or in a clinic, and it's outside of school, or at least that's how it was, where we live, and a lot of our experience with that. When really ABA is good teaching, and classrooms and teachers should know the principles of ABA because they are the principles of learning. And if we can help them understand the principles of learning, then all of our kids are better off. So very often schools feel like the urgency for a BCBA is on the kids who are, the most behavioral or the most challenged or have a diagnosis. And if you're familiar with the triangle, the PBIS triangle, that's usually where the BCBA supports go. It's, we have this crisis, we need a behavior plan, and you need to help. And what I think is, if you have the opportunity to focus on the 90% of the school and focus on making change within how the teachers approach all kids' behaviors, how classrooms are set up, how reinforcement looks in the classrooms, what are the principles of how kids get consequences. A lot of schools are still using like send the kid to the principal's office or send them home. What does reinforcement look like in the school? How trained are teachers on these concepts of learning, reinforcement, punishment, for lack of a better word. And I think by educating a lot of the school on those principles and understanding how those work, you would eliminate a lot of the need for the behavior plans, because a lot of things that we write in behavior plans are all of these antecedent strategies, which are reinforcement systems, which is skill acquisition, which is data collection. And it's stuff that can be incorporated on a class-wide level. So that's the first good thing. And the second thing is all the kids are better off, right? It's not, ABA is not just this thing that happens for kids who have challenging behavior. We can incorporate it into a way where all kids are now getting this good teaching, this positive based interactions, all of the good stuff that ABA really has to offer. That's so much more than safety plans, which are important. But again, if we look at it from like a more proactive antecedent side of things, we could avoid a lot of those safety plans because kids can be happier, more productive, like right off the bat. So if I had it my way, I would, as a BCBA in the school, focus on teacher training, like offering workshops, offering training for teachers and support staff on those kind of topics, on principles of learning, on reinforcement, on shaping, setting up reinforcement systems in your classrooms, why you need to use visuals in teaching, all of those really important topics. Which we also happen to have like staff training slides on that you could probably use some of that if you were looking to do some of those trainings. That would be one, good place to focus. And then also starting to implement more, whatever you would think of as part of a behavior plan, trying to get some of that teaching happening in the classrooms. So if kids need to learn to tolerate waiting, right, especially at a kindergarten level, you want to put in some skill-based teaching around more like life skills. Gregory Hanley calls it the preschool life skills curriculum, which he created, way back when, and there's all that literature on it. And if you think about the life skills that kids need, which is waiting, tolerating no, taking turns, sharing, all the stuff outside of academics, then you can focus on maybe bringing some of those skills into, especially some of our early learner classrooms. And that will also, ultimately help eliminate some of the challenging behavior. But teaching teachers how to teach those things. Teachers are really, really great at teaching curriculum. I find that literacy and math, like they are great. They love it. That's what their training is. And then you say, teach a kid to like tolerate no, or how to wait without, a challenging behavior, or tolerate not being first in line. And they're like, I don't know how to do this. So really supporting them in that would be a really nice second goal. And then, obviously third would be the child, kids with behavior challenges or who really need a behavior safety plan, and training staff on how to mostly be trained in those proactive strategies. Because, I always say teachers, my first year working in a school, they would kind of call me in wanting like the magic wand. Like, my kid's having behavior, just call Shira, like she'll just do something about it. And we won't know what she does, but like, she just has to do something. And it really took a couple years to get the attitude of, my skills are so not like worth it in the moment. Like, there's so little I can do in the moment that I need to help you get involved in how you can prevent this and manage it. Because once it happens, there's so much less I can do than before it happens. And that took years. So now I almost never go if they call me, because I find it reinforces that behavior versus like, let me educate you and train you on how you have the skills to teach proactively how to deal with the behavior. And because then in the moment, you really just have to keep everyone safe. It could be that's the case. Schools often want the consequence, like they want the punishment, but like, we have to retrain on, it's not about the consequence. It's about the teaching. And if you're interested in teaching because you're a teacher, that should sound great. How does that sound? Does that sound like the direction you might be able to apply?
Yes, thank you.
Good
I just
luck.
put a bunch of stuff in the chat.
Okay.
The first link that I put was the Hanley Preschool's life assessment. There's a whole website devoted to that and just teaching skills. And it says preschool, but honestly, like, kindergartens, grade oneers, even maybe a spec ed class up to maybe grade 3 do need a lot of these skills. So take a look at that. And then I also posted links to, we've got in our main library, we've got a whole bunch of data sheets, etc., just revolving around schools. So take a look at that. Shira mentioned the staff training slides. Those are on our website. So I put a post to that as well. And then Shira stopped talking too quickly. So I will. I'll post. It's okay. We also have some CEUs on ABA in schools, so I'll just post that as well. So just because you asked that question, now you have a ton of homework.
Thank you. I need it.
I hope that helped. And I'll repost the Hanley one. Amy said that she just signed it and didn't get it, so I'll post that one as well.
Good luck. I think it's so exciting. And I think it really takes like, a good couple years. So don't get discouraged if the first year is really hard, because like, you find your footing and they get to know what you're all about. And then it takes a couple years to like get into a groove.
And I think that's the one part of the reason I didn't go, school-based. Sure, as a teacher, I'm not, that's not my background. But I find, being in a public school or thinking about being in a public school and not getting to choose the clients I work with is really exciting for some people. And for me, it's really daunting. It's like, oh, what do you mean? I don't, I just have to be given anybody who's thrown at me. And usually, in the public school systems, like Shira said, it's always the squeaky wheel, right? It's the one who has gone through so much. And now, BCBA is almost like the last person they get to. And if we could change everything and be proactive about that, that would be amazing, right? So we talk about PBIS strategies, antecedent strategies on our learners. We should be using antecedent strategies with our teachers. Like, hey, let's train the trainers here. Wouldn't that make sense? So that would be utopia, right? So, Quinn just said she passed her BCBA exam. I'm so excited. Congratulations. Yeah, that's daunting too. And that's huge. So awesome. Congratulations, Quinn.
Different assessments we'll have to do. That was the rest of the question.
Yeah, she wants to review some assessments. Absolutely. We can talk about a few right now. There is one in the CEU trainings I'm going to be biased and say it's really good because I did it, but take a look at the ones we have on assessments right now. I'm just going to give you a link to those as well. Okay. And then I can kind of review a few. Okay. So, question is about assessments and just talking about the different assessments that we do as BCBAs. And there are actually quite a few assessments, and typically we should, as BCBAs, always be doing assessments first. It's not about treating and then maybe assessing. It's about let's assess and let's get data in terms of what these people need to learn, and then follow through with programs and then reassess to make sure they've learned and, see what gaps are next. With that being said, we typically never teach to an assessment. Assessment we use as a baseline, as a measurement tool, but we always look to see what future steps are. And then we go, okay, let's go back from there. What are parent goals? What are some skills? What are some weaknesses? What are the students' strengths? How can we teach using the students' strengths and teach some of the things that they need? And in fact, Shira and I were talking today, actually earlier, and we were talking about what CEU we need to do for February. And we decided that we're going to do something on not necessarily assessments, but after you have an assessment, how do you create the program? So it's not just about, filling in another box on an assessment, but it's about really thinking about where this kiddo needs to be in 10 years from now and working backwards and going, okay, well, what do they need? And put that in now. But that's not the question. The question is, so stay tuned for that CEU in February. But the question is about assessments. So, there's a few basic assessments or just, general assessments that BCBAs use. One of them is the ABLES, the Assessment of Basic Language and Learning Skills by James Partington. That one is typically, I typically would do that one with, anywhere from say a 3-year-old to a 10-year-old. Again, it's not age normed, but it is a really great assessment in terms of looking at language. It breaks things down into a lot of feature function class, looks at requesting in that F section of the ABLES. There's a whole section on requesting, and it really breaks that down. And I think that's awesome. So that's a good one to use. There's the VB map, which is Mark Sundberg, and that one actually is age normed. And funny enough, when the ABLES first came out, it was Mark Sundberg and James Partington together on the first edition of the ABLES. And then the second edition of the ABLES came out, the revised version. It was just James Partington. And then Mark Sundberg, broke away and did the VB map. So they are very similar to each other. The VB map is age normed. So, you can look at that and go, okay, according to this age, this is what the kiddo needs to know. They've got 3 different levels in the VB map, and the 3 different levels are based on age, but you should teach everything across those categories in the first level before moving on to the second level. With that being said, we still don't love filling in boxes, but it does give you an idea of where the student's strengths and weaknesses are. So we talked about the ABLES, the VB map, again, same type of age. I think it's age normed from the ages of, 0 to 4 or 5 years old. But, with our kiddos, we typically would, implement a VB map until they're probably about 7 or 8 and then, move to something else. For really young kiddos who have 0 language, no joint attention, what have you, I would use Early Start Denver model. I love that assessment. It's just really, play-based, get down and play, and, really basic things like, can they follow a point, to do this, and this, do they make any, eye contact or joint attention, shared attention, I think is what they call it. Do they share toys? Do they show toys? How do they play with toys? That kind of stuff. So that's really awesome for a really beginner learner. And then, I always say, if someone's outgrown an ABLES or VB map, say, they can pretty much answer most of those questions on there. You could move towards what's called the peak assessment. Peak assessment is by Mark Dixon, and it is based on more relational frame theory or like inferencing, right? So if I say, or if I look out the window and I see that, someone's wearing a winter jacket, I'm going to make the inference that it's really cold outside and I'm going to need to put on a winter jacket to go outside. No one told me it was cold, just doing that. So the peak gets into kind of more advanced language things and generalization. And then there's also the life skills assessment. James Partington, who wrote the ABLES, also did the AFULS, which is an assessment of functional living skills. And, you can implement that pretty much at any age, but usually, I say from kind of 10 onwards is we really, really want to make sure that our kiddos have that functional living skills. So those would be the main assessments, I would say. So, going in order from like youngest or earliest to the latest, I would say would be the ESDM, and then the VB map, the ABLES, the PEAK, and the AFULS is what I would say. Shira, anything else?
Yeah, I think there are then ones that are more specific to the skills you want to teach. There's the inventory of good learner repertoires, which is more, I would say, it's like school related skills. If you're looking at like a classroom type program, there are some social skills assessments. There are some life skills assessments. And the idea is that none of these assessments that we're talking about are even like standardized. Like it's not the kind of assessment that you get any kind of like result from or diagnosis from or anything like that. But the idea of an assessment is that it's almost like the pre-test, post-test style of data collection. So you really could take any version of a checklist or anything like, here are the expectations or the skills that we want to see. And there are lots of versions of that. Teach the skills, assess on the same scale. Did they make any progress? Like that's really what you're looking at with an assessment. And while it is super important, I don't want to like overvalue like we can only use an ABLE. And I know like, listen, for insurance and all of those things, that it does become an issue to use one of those assessments. But there are so many other options more for good practice if you're looking at a specific set of skills, in knowing how to baseline those skills, how to choose the right kind of checklist or the right kind of way to assess those skills, teach the skills, and then reassess the skills, which is really what an assessment is. So we've even developed like some of our own assessments based on the needs of our program and the needs of our school. And yeah, once you get more familiar with it, you'll be able to do that too. And I think the idea is that you need to be able to, like we were just talking about this earlier, really see the big picture. Like, what is it that we want this student to be able to do? What is going to be, you know, if we're really working on like a life skills program, we didn't mention EFL. That's also essential for living assessment, which is a lot of like must-haves, nice to haves, and other skills that are related to functional living. So you really have to think big picture, like, where is this student going? Is this student going to be on a mostly academic program? Are they doing mostly language-based goals? Are they ultimately going to be working towards life skills and functional living skills? And that will really help guide you in choosing the right assessment. And then also ultimately choosing the goals from those assessments, because no assessment is perfect. And you really, as the clinician, have to get to know what it is that you're looking for and wanting to, what information you want to get from that assessment.
So hopefully we didn't overwhelm you too much by, giving you too much information. I put some links in the chat as well in terms of the assessments. So one of the links that I put in there was a link to our CEU on assessments and just general, here's what assessment to use and when and why. And it's nice because it just breaks it down a little bit further and goes into more detail without trying to overwhelm you. And then I put links into our How to ABA assessment that, we've developed, and it's based on the ABLEs and the VB map as well. So take a look at that one. And then I just put a link in just for the standard assessments that we have. We've got links to other websites, but it's just really in a nice succinct little section there. So check out the links that I put in the chat. And hopefully that was a really quick overview.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning process. So just be open to like lots of learning.
Yeah. And you know what? One thing at a time. Try not to take on too much. Like it's, as a new BCBA, you want to learn everything all at once. And oftentimes, with work, it's like, well, you got to do this and you got to do it now, or you got to do it as of yesterday. And you're like, what, huh? And it can be really overwhelming, but we're here for you. I promise we're here for you. We can walk you through every step of the way. Keep coming to these mentorship meetings, watch our CEUs, and that'll help as well. But really try and keep it simple and learn one thing at a time. So don't try and learn all these assessments and be a master in all of them. Take one and really learn it, and then take the next one and really learn it. Click the link on or around this video to join the Behavior Pro Resource Membership and attend these meetings live. Get your own questions answered. For more information on our mentorship programs, click the link on or around this video or in the description to join the Behavior Pro Resource Membership. We also encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future video releases. And leave a like and comment below if you have further questions.